Before anyone ever follows you, before anyone ever trusts your direction, before your words carry weight, there is one person you must lead first: yourself. Not when it's convenient, not when motivation is high, not when life feels aligned, but when no one is watching, when the pressure is heavy, when excuses are available, when quitting would be easy. Most people want influence, they want authority, they want respect, but very few are willing to earn it in silence. Because real leadership does not begin with a title. It does not begin with applause. It does not begin with followers. It begins in the private moments where your choices define you. This audiobook is called Lead Yourself First. And if you're listening right now, it's because something inside you already knows the truth. You don't rise into leadership. You build into it, one disciplined decision at a time. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself honestly, who are you when no one is watching? Who are you when things don't go your way? Who are you when discipline costs comfort? Because that version of you, that is the leader everyone else eventually meets. Chapter 1. Why most people never become leaders. The world is filled with people who talk about leadership. They quote leaders, they admire leaders, they dream about becoming leaders. But leadership is rare, not because opportunity is rare, but because self-mastery is rare. Most people are reactive. They live in emotional autopilot. They let moods decide actions. They let circumstances control behavior. And here's the hard truth. You cannot lead others if your emotions lead you. You cannot guide direction if you cannot control reaction. You cannot inspire discipline if you negotiate with weakness. Leadership begins where excuses end. And most people never cross that line. They say, I'll start when I feel ready. I'll be disciplined when life slows down. I'll lead when someone gives me permission. But leaders don't wait for permission. They prepare. They train their mind to act even when emotions resist. They build internal standards that don't depend on external approval. They do what needs to be done, especially when it's uncomfortable. This is why leadership is lonely at first, because while others are chasing comfort, leaders are building character. While others are waiting for motivation, leaders are strengthening discipline. While others are asking, what do I get? Leaders are asking, what do I owe my future self? Chapter 2. The discipline. No one sees. There is a version of leadership that never makes headlines. It doesn't shout. It doesn't brag. It doesn't demand attention. It shows up quietly. Early mornings, uncelebrated effort, consistent habits, private standards. This is self-leadership. Self-leadership is waking up when your mind says sleep. It's telling yourself no when indulgence whispers yes. It's choosing long-term respect over short-term pleasure. No one claps for this. No one rewards this immediately. And that's exactly why it works. Because the strongest leaders are forged in environments where no validation exists. If you only do the right thing when someone is watching, you are not leading. You are performing. True leaders act the same in private as they do in public. They keep promises to themselves. They follow through even when enthusiasm fades. They don't need pressure. They create structure. And structure is power. Chapter 3. The moment. Everything changes. There comes a moment, quiet, personal, unavoidable, when you realize something uncomfortable. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to push you. No one is coming to hold you accountable. And that realization can either break you or awaken you. This is the moment where leaders are born. When you stop blaming, when you stop waiting, when you stop negotiating with your potential, you realize that every delay is a decision. Every excuse is a vote against your future. Every undisciplined action compounds, and so does every disciplined one. Leadership is not about controlling others. It is about commanding yourself, your habits, your thoughts, your reactions, your standards. When you master those, influence follows naturally. People don't follow titles. They follow certainty. They follow consistency. They follow self-respect. And self-respect is built, not claimed. A question you must answer. Before we go any further, ask yourself this. If someone followed your daily habits, your discipline, your reactions, your priorities, where would they end up? Because leadership is not what you say, it's what you repeatedly do. In the next chapter of this audiobook, we're going deeper into the internal battle every leader must face, the war between comfort and growth, the tension between emotion and discipline, the cost of becoming someone others can trust, and once you see it, you will never unsee it. This is where leadership truly begins. Chapter 2. The Inner Authority. Self-command before influence. There is a reason most people want to lead, but very few people are trusted to. Leadership is not a role you step into. It is a weight you earn the strength to carry, and that strength is built internally, long before anyone ever listens to you. This is where we separate appearance from authority, because authority is not volume, it is not dominance, it is not control. Authority is self-command. Chapter 4. Why emotional control is non-negotiable. Every leader you admire has one thing in common. They are not ruled by emotion. They feel fear, but they act anyway. They feel doubt, but they decide anyway. They feel pressure, but they remain grounded. That doesn't make them emotionless. It makes them emotionally disciplined. Most people live at the mercy of how they feel. If they feel confident, they act. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel offended, they react. If they feel uncertain, they freeze. That is not leadership. That is dependence. And dependence disqualifies authority. A leader cannot afford emotional volatility because people look for stability before they follow direction. If your mood shifts your behavior, if your anger dictates your response, if your ego overrides your judgment, you are not leading, you are reacting, and reaction never builds trust. Chapter 5. The Discipline of Delayed Reaction. One of the most powerful skills a leader develops is silence, not avoidance, not suppression, strategic pause, the ability to stop, breathe, and choose a response instead of defaulting to impulse. This is not weakness, this is mastery, because the moment you react emotionally, you surrender control. Every argument you escalate unnecessarily, every message you send while triggered, every decision you make while frustrated, costs you authority. Leaders don't win every moment. They win the moment that matters, and that moment always arrives after the pause. Chapter 6. Self-respect is the root of influence. People don't follow charisma for long. They follow consistency. They follow the person who shows up the same on good days and bad days. They follow the one who doesn't contradict themselves. They follow the one whose actions align with their words. That alignment is called self-respect. Self-respect is not arrogance. It's not confidence for display. It is the quiet knowing that you keep your own standards. When you respect yourself, you don't over-explain. You don't overpromise. You don't compromise your values to be liked. You move deliberately. And people feel that. They may not articulate it, but they sense it. And that sense creates trust. Chapter 7. The cost of becoming reliability is rare. And that's exactly why it's powerful. Anyone can show up when it's easy. Anyone can commit when motivation is high. Anyone can talk about discipline. But leaders are reliable when it's inconvenient. They do the work even when no one is checking. They follow through even when enthusiasm fades. They honor commitments even when excuses are available. Reliability builds reputation, and reputation is leadership currency. You don't need to tell people you are disciplined. They see it, they feel it, they rely on it. A truth most people avoid. Here is the uncomfortable truth. You cannot demand discipline from others if you negotiate discipline with yourself. You cannot expect commitment if your own habits are inconsistent. You cannot ask for loyalty if you abandon your own standards. Leadership is not taught first. It is demonstrated, and demonstration begins with self-command. Where this is going next. In the next chapter of this audiobook, we're going to confront something even deeper. The hidden ways leaders sabotage themselves, the quiet habits that weaken authority over time, and the internal shifts that separate respected leaders from ignored voices. This is where leadership stops being theoretical and becomes transformational, because once you master yourself, influence becomes inevitable. Chapter 3. The Silent Standards That Define. Real leaders. Before anyone follows your direction, they are watching your standards. Not the standards you talk about, the standards you live by when no one is watching. Because leadership is revealed in private long before it is tested in public. Chapter 8. The Hidden Agreement. You make with yourself. Every day, you make a silent agreement with yourself. You either keep your word, or you break it. You either follow through, or you delay. You either act with intention, or you drift. And here is the truth most people never confront. How you treat your own commitments becomes the ceiling of your leadership. If you lie to yourself about effort, you will eventually lie to others about results. If you negotiate your standards in private, you will compromise them under pressure. Leadership does not collapse suddenly. It erodes quietly, one excuse at a time, one skipped discipline at a time, one moment of self-betrayal at a time. Chapter 9. Why leaders are predictable in the best way. Unstable people crave excitement. Leaders build predictability. Predictability creates safety, and safety creates trust. When people know how you will respond, they relax. When they know your values won't shift, they commit. When they know your mood doesn't dictate your decisions, they follow. This is why the most powerful leaders are often calm, measured, and almost boring on the surface. But beneath that calm is something rare: internal order. They are not improvising life. They are executing a code. Chapter 10. The difference between motivation and command. Motivation is emotional. Command is structural. Motivation says, "I'll do it when I feel ready." Command says, "This is who I am. This is what I do." Leaders don't wait to feel inspired. They rely on systems, routines, and principles. They remove decision fatigue. They eliminate unnecessary choices. They design their environment to support discipline. This is why self-leadership is not about willpower. It's about architecture. The way you structure your days. The way you protect your energy. The way you decide once and stop renegotiating. Chapter 11. Why self-control is magnetic. People are drawn to control, not control over others, control over self. When someone remains calm in chaos, they become a reference point. When someone doesn't chase validation, they become grounded. When someone speaks less but means more, their words carry weight. This is why leaders don't rush to prove themselves. They let consistency speak. They let restraint build authority. They let time reveal character. A question you must answer. Honestly, ask yourself this, without judgment, without ego. If someone copied your daily habits exactly, your routines, your reactions, your discipline, would they become stronger or more distracted? That answer tells you everything. Because leadership multiplies who you are. And before you influence others, you must be worth multiplying. What comes next? In the next part, we will explore the most overlooked leadership skill of all: decision clarity. How leaders think under pressure, how they simplify complexity, and how they make choices that compound over time instead of creating chaos. This is where leadership stops being about effort and becomes about precision. Chapter 4. Decision clarity. How leaders think. When it matters most. Leadership is not proven in comfort. It is revealed in moments of pressure, when time is short, when emotions are loud, when consequences are real. This is where most people freeze, and where leaders separate themselves. Chapter 12. The weight of indecision. Indecision is not neutral. It is a decision to delay, and delay has a cost. It drains energy. It creates anxiety. It spreads uncertainty. People don't lose confidence because leaders make the wrong decision. They lose confidence because leaders don't decide at all. Clarity, even imperfect clarity, is calming, because uncertainty is more exhausting than effort. Chapter 13. How leaders simplify complex choices. Leaders do not think harder. They think cleaner. They reduce noise. They ignore the unnecessary. They focus on leverage. Instead of asking, "What is everything that could go wrong?" they ask, "What matters most right now?" Instead of drowning in options, they narrow to principles. This is the hidden advantage of self-leadership. When you know your values, decisions stop being debates. They become filters. Chapter 14. Principles over emotions. Emotions are temporary. Principles are stable. Leaders feel emotions. They just don't let emotions drive the wheel. They pause, they breathe. They create space between stimulus and response. That space is power. Because in that space, you choose who you are instead of reacting to what happened. This is not suppression. It is mastery. Chapter 15. Why fast decisions come from preparation. Great decisions often look instinctive, but instinct is trained. Leaders prepare long before pressure arrives. They reflect. They review past mistakes. They think in advance. So when the moment comes, they are not inventing an answer. They are executing one, a truth that changes everything. You don't rise to the level of your intelligence under stress. You fall to the level of your self-leadership. Your habits decide your reactions. Your discipline decides your clarity. Your standards decide your outcomes. This is why leading yourself is not optional. It is foundational. Pause and reflect. Ask yourself this: when pressure hits, do you become reactive or resolved? Do you scatter or focus? Do you hesitate or move with intention? Your answer reveals your current level of leadership. What comes next? In the next part, we will talk about something even deeper: emotional self-command. How leaders regulate their inner world, how they stay calm when others panic, and how emotional discipline becomes the quiet source of authority. Because before you can lead people, you must lead your emotions. Chapter 5. Emotional command. The inner authority of real leaders. Before anyone trusts your words, they feel your emotional state. Before anyone follows your direction, they sense your inner stability. Leadership is emotional before it is logical. Chapter 16. Why emotional control is non-negotiable. Uncontrolled emotions don't stay private. They leak. Through tone, through posture, through decisions. When a leader panics, panic spreads. When a leader is calm, calm becomes contagious. This is not theory. This is human biology. People mirror the emotional energy of authority figures. So the question is simple: what energy do you bring into the room? Chapter 17. The difference between reaction and response. Reactions are automatic. Responses are chosen. Reactions come from habit. Responses come from awareness. Leaders train themselves to slow down the moment, not to suppress emotion, but to observe it without obeying it. They notice anger without speaking from it. They notice fear without acting from it. They notice stress without becoming it. This is emotional self-command. Chapter 18. Calm is not weakness. Many people confuse calmness with passivity. Leaders know better. Calm is strength under control. It is the ability to remain steady while others shake, clear while others blur, focused while others scatter. A calm leader does not rush. They move deliberately, and deliberate movement creates trust. Chapter 19. Emotional discipline is built daily. You don't become emotionally strong in crisis. You become emotionally strong in practice. In small moments, when you choose patience instead of snapping, when you choose silence instead of impulse, when you choose perspective instead of ego. Each moment trains your nervous system. Each moment reinforces leadership. Chapter 20. The inner climate determines the outer result. Your inner world sets the ceiling for your outer impact. If your inner climate is chaotic, your leadership will be inconsistent. If your inner climate is disciplined, your leadership will be reliable. People don't follow perfection. They follow predictability. They follow emotional safety. They follow leaders who don't explode, collapse, or disappear under pressure. A moment of truth. Ask yourself honestly, when things don't go your way, do you lose control or regain it? Do you escalate or stabilize? Do you react or respond? Your answers shape your future as a leader. What comes next? In the next part, we will move even deeper. Self-trust. How leaders build unshakable confidence. Why confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself. And how inner integrity becomes outer authority. Because leadership is not about convincing others. It is about becoming someone worth following. Chapter 6. Self-trust. The foundation of unshakable leadership. Before anyone believes in you, you must believe in yourself. Not in a loud way, not in an arrogant way, but in a quiet, unbreakable way. This chapter of leadership is invisible, and because it is invisible, it is often ignored. Yet it is the difference between people who hesitate and people who move with certainty. Chapter 21. Why self-trust comes before confidence. Confidence is visible. Self-trust is internal. Confidence is how you appear. Self-trust is how you decide. Many people try to look confident without first becoming trustworthy to themselves. That never lasts. Because when pressure hits, appearance collapses. Only self-trust remains. Self-trust is built when your actions align with your words, especially when no one is watching. Chapter 22. Broken promises. Create inner weakness. Every time you promise yourself something and don't follow through, you weaken your internal authority. Your mind remembers. You may forget consciously, but your nervous system does not. It begins to doubt you. This is why people procrastinate, why they hesitate, why they second-guess themselves, not because they lack ability, but because they no longer trust their own word. Leadership begins by repairing that relationship. Chapter 23. The power of small commitments. You don't rebuild self-trust with massive goals. You rebuild it with small, kept promises. Wake up when you said you would. Finish what you start. Do the uncomfortable thing you planned, even when motivation disappears. Each completed commitment restores internal respect. Over time, that respect becomes confidence, and confidence becomes presence. Chapter 24. Why leaders move without applause. Self-trusting leaders don't need validation. They don't wait for permission. They don't wait for encouragement. They don't wait for certainty. They act because they said they would. This is quiet power. It doesn't seek approval. It earns it. Chapter 25. Integrity is the root of influence. People don't follow charisma forever. They follow consistency. They follow leaders whose actions match their words. Integrity is not about morality. It is about reliability. When people know you mean what you say, your words carry weight, and weight creates influence. A reflective pause. Ask yourself, do you trust your own decisions? Do you follow through on your commitments to yourself? Or do you negotiate with your discipline? Every answer reveals your current leadership level. But here's the good news. Self-trust is not inherited. It is built. What comes next? In the next part, we step into personal vision. Why leaders think long-term, how clarity eliminates confusion, and how a clear internal direction turns effort into progress. Because leaders don't just manage today, they design tomorrow. Chapter 7. Vision. How leaders see what others can't. Most people live inside the moment. Leaders live ahead of it. They don't just react to what's happening. They anticipate what's coming. This is not talent. This is not luck. This is vision. Chapter 26. Vision is not a dream. Vision is not fantasy. It's not wishful thinking. It's not motivation quotes or vague hopes. Vision is clarity. It is the ability to see where you are going before anyone else understands why you're moving. Without vision, effort becomes exhausting. With vision, effort becomes meaningful. Chapter 27. Why most people feel lost. People don't feel lost because they lack options. They feel lost because they lack direction. Too many goals, too many opinions, too many distractions pulling them in different directions. Leadership begins when you simplify. One direction, one priority. One long-term aim. Clarity removes noise. Chapter 28. The cost of living without a direction. When you don't choose a direction, life chooses one for you. You drift, you react. You chase urgency instead of importance, and years pass. Not because you were lazy, but because you were unfocused. Vision protects your time. Chapter 29. Leaders think in years, not days. Workers ask, what do I need to do today? Leaders ask, who do I need to become in 5 years? Daily actions change when long-term identity is clear. Your habits align. Your decisions simplify. Your discipline strengthens. Because now you're not just doing tasks. You're building a future self. Chapter 30. Vision eliminates motivation. Problems. Motivation fades. Vision doesn't. When you know why you're doing something, you don't need to feel inspired. You move because the direction is non-negotiable. Vision turns discipline into default behavior. A reflective pause. Ask yourself, if nothing changed externally, who would you become internally? If no one was watching, what kind of life would you build? These answers shape your vision. What comes next? In the next part, we confront fear and self-doubt. Why leaders act despite fear. How emotional regulation creates authority. And why courage is not the absence of fear, but mastery over it. Because leadership is tested when comfort disappears. Chapter 8. Fear, doubt, and the inner battlefield. Every leader faces fear. The difference is not whether fear shows up. It's who's in control when it does. Fear doesn't disappear when you step into leadership. It intensifies, because now the stakes are higher, the responsibility is heavier, and the consequences are real. Chapter 31. Fear is a signal, not a stop sign. Fear is not your enemy. It's information. It tells you that you're standing at the edge of growth, that something meaningful is at risk, that you're leaving the familiar. Most people misinterpret fear as danger. Leaders interpret fear as direction. Chapter 32. Why confidence is built, not found. Confidence doesn't come from thinking positive thoughts. It comes from evidence. Evidence that you can keep promises to yourself. Evidence that you act even when it's uncomfortable. Evidence that you survive hard moments. Each disciplined action deposits trust into your identity. Confidence is earned quietly. Chapter 33. The inner voice that sabotages you. There is a voice inside you that questions everything. What if you fail? Who do you think you are? What if they judge you? That voice is not intuition. It's fear dressed as logic. Leaders don't silence the voice. They refuse to obey it. Chapter 34. Emotional control. Is authority leadership presence isn't loud. It's calm. When others panic, leaders breathe. When emotions spike, leaders slow down. When chaos appears, leaders stabilize. The person who controls their emotions controls the room. Calm is contagious. Chapter 35. Acting before you feel ready. You will never feel fully ready. Readiness is a myth created by procrastination. Leaders move forward while feeling uncertain. while doubting, while uncomfortable. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. A moment of truth. Ask yourself, what would change if fear stopped making decisions for you? Not eliminated, just no longer in charge. Leadership begins there. What comes next? In the next part, we talk about discipline as identity. Not discipline as punishment, but discipline as self-respect. Because leaders don't rely on motivation, they rely on systems, and that changes everything. Chapter 9. Discipline is identity. Leadership is not built on motivation. Motivation is emotional, unpredictable, temporary. Leadership is built on discipline. Not the harsh kind, not punishment, but identity-level discipline. The kind that says, this is who I am, whether I feel like it or not. Chapter 36. Discipline as self-respect. True discipline is not force. It's self-respect in action. When you show up on time, you're telling yourself you matter. When you follow through, you're reinforcing trust with yourself. When you do the hard thing quietly, you're shaping who you are becoming. Leaders don't chase discipline, they live it. Chapter 37. Why leaders build systems, not willpower. Willpower fades. Systems endure. Leaders design their environment so discipline becomes automatic. They don't rely on moods, they rely on structure. Wake-up routines, decision filters, clear priorities. If your system is weak, your discipline will collapse under pressure. Chapter 38. Identity drives behavior. You don't act your way into a new identity. You decide your identity, then act in alignment with it. Say it clearly. I am someone who finishes. I am someone who prepares. I am someone who leads myself. Every aligned action strengthens that identity. Chapter 39. Quiet consistency beats. Loud intensity leadership is not dramatic. It's repetitive. The same standards, the same habits, the same values, every day. Most people burn out chasing intensity. Leaders win through consistency, small actions executed daily, without applause. Chapter 40. When no one is watching. This is where leadership is revealed. Not in meetings, not in recognition, but alone. What you do when there's no reward defines your authority. The private standard becomes the public strength. A reflection. Ask yourself, who are you becoming through your daily choices? Not your intentions, not your plans, your actions. Leadership is built there. What comes next? In the final part, we bring it all together. Vision, discipline, emotional control, self-trust, and the ultimate question, what kind of leader will you choose to be, starting tomorrow morning? Chapter 10. The leader you choose to be. Final chapter. Leadership does not arrive one day. It is not handed to you with a title. It is not unlocked by permission. It is not validated by applause. Leadership is chosen, moment by moment, long before anyone else notices. Chapter 41. The moment of decision. There is a quiet moment every day. No spotlight, no pressure, no audience. A moment where you decide, do I act like the person I say I want to be? Or do I default to comfort? That moment is leadership, and it happens more often than you think. Chapter 42. Leadership is a direction, not a destination. You never arrive at leadership. You practice it, you adjust, you refine, you recommit. Leadership is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. When you drift, you notice. When you fall short, you correct. When you succeed, you stay grounded. That is self-leadership. Chapter 43. The power of owning your life. Leaders do not blame circumstances. They ask better questions. What can I control here? What standard am I setting? What lesson is being offered? Ownership creates clarity. Clarity creates calm. Calm creates authority. When you own your choices, your life stops feeling chaotic and starts feeling directed. Chapter 44. Becoming someone others can trust. People follow clarity. They follow consistency. They follow emotional stability. They follow those who lead themselves. When your words match your actions, when your reactions show maturity, when your habits show discipline, you become trustworthy without trying. Influence follows naturally. Chapter 45. The quiet legacy. You are building leadership is not measured by followers. It is measured by impact. The way you speak to people, the way you handle pressure, the way you respond when things don't go your way. You are teaching even when you don't realize it, especially to yourself. A final reflection. Ask yourself honestly, what kind of person am I becoming through my daily choices? Not someday, not after a breakthrough, not when life gets easier, now. Because leadership begins exactly where you are. A commitment. If this audiobook resonated with you, don't let it end here. Choose one habit, one standard, one decision you will honor daily. Leadership grows through consistency, not inspiration. Closing words. You don't need permission to lead. You don't need validation to change. You only need the courage to take responsibility for who you are becoming. Lead yourself first, and everything else will follow. If this message spoke to you, share the line that hit hardest, and tell us, what topic should the next audiobook explore? This is not the end, it's the beginning.